You're listening to the Copywriter On Call podcast. I'm your host, Sara Gillis, copywriter, word magic maker, and owner of What Sara Said. On this podcast, you'll feel empowered to show up online in a way that has you saying, "That's so me." Let's get started. Hello, and welcome back to the Copywriter On Call podcast, and welcome to season 4. I am your host, Sara Gillis, and I am clocking some on-call hours solo today to fill you in on all the things related to my newest business venture, What Sara Reads. Now, before we get anywhere, I want to throw out a little disclaimer. My copywriting business, What Sara Said, is not going anywhere. I love what I do as a copywriter for photographers and creatives, and What Sara Reads has certainly been a dream of mine for years, but I still am so unbelievably blessed to craft word magic for websites and blogs and emails, and I don't have any plans on stopping that anytime soon. So now back to What Sara Reads. This is a brand new business that I launched just a month ago, literally. I'm recording this in early July, and I launched What Sara Reads in June. So here's what this business is all about in a nutshell. What Sara Reads is a mobile book buying experience for creative and inspired women in the greater Sioux Falls area, which is where I'm from in South Dakota. I call myself a lifelong storyteller. I have also been both a student and a teacher of literature. I have a master's degree in English literature, mostly contemporary literature. I'm also an obsessive reader and a copywriter, right? So I believe that words matter. And I've also come to believe that reading for pleasure should be more than just opening up a box that Amazon sends us at our doorstep or just swiping away that purchase confirmation on your Kindle. To me, I want discovering your next book to read to be an experience and an adventure. And that's what I have strived to create with What Sara Reads. I envision What Sara Reads as a place that you can go to shamelessly add to your to be read pile. If you are a reader, you know that to be read pile grows and grows and grows, and I'm here for it. Inside my mobile book trailer for What Sara Reads, I bring together a curated collection of books hand selected by me. And they are a variety of titles. They include some popular fiction, some popular romance, some really great fantasy and romantasy, and all of the word magic gems in between. So I love to kind of select and hand pick all of the titles that are appearing inside What Sara Reads on purpose and for a purpose. So that's kind of my mission here. I personally stand behind all of the titles that I showcase. And so, of course, over time, you'll find some literature picks in there, but you'll also find, like I said, some spicy romance, some really fun thrillers, and all of the great stuff in between. So now, before we get to the actual launch of the business, which again happened a month ago, we have to go back in time. Okay. So come with me to the fall of 2022. Then, gosh, my life was so different then. I was understanding quickly that 2023 was going to be a really big year. 2022 came and it was a good year, but remember, I took my business full time starting in May of 2021, and so by the time 2022 hit, I was in a good place with my business. I started to figure out, I really want to be serving photographers and I really want to be serving creatives. And things were shaping up for 2023 to be a really big year. So much so that I hired a coach to help me through 2023 to kind of launch or relaunch, I suppose, launch a better iteration of my group coaching program, Story Sale, and to kind of build out a few things in my offer suite, like a course, a website copy course for photographers, which is now Words That Click, which is great, and a few other tactical things I wanted to get off the ground in 2023. But also in the fall of 2022, I kind of on a lark applied to a business accelerator program here in Sioux Falls called Co-Starters. It was offered by a local entrepreneur incubator here called Startup Sioux Falls. And I applied for this just like, okay, let's just try this. I mean, the emotions that came into play when I was trying to, formulate my application, it was a lot of anxiety because I had no idea if this idea for what Sarah reads had legs, right? There was a lot of anxiety as well because this was a grant funded program, which means it didn't cost me anything to participate, but it was like a time investment and an emotional investment. It was my dream on a computer screen or on an application. And so I didn't necessarily have the confidence that this idea had legs when I was applying. I, submitted the best application I could, and I kind of just let the universe say, okay, you know what? If the universe decides that this is a good fit, that this idea is worth, exploring, then this is going to be, a program I participate in. This is going to be that sign. Fast forward to the early winter of 2023. I had just started working with my business coach, Sabrina, and I was on a hockey tournament. I was away at a hockey tournament with my kids, and I got an email. I remember like so distinctly, I was pacing the hallways in our hotel because I got an email that I was accepted to this program. My business idea for what Sarah reads had legs. It was validated by them saying, we want you to be part of this program. We want to invite you to explore your business idea for the next 12 weeks. And we want to support you in doing that. And I remember pacing the hallway and feeling like, what did I do? But also like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. But also like, what did I do? So, I mean, the emotions vacillated, right? Like here I was gearing up for this really big year in 2023 in my business, in what Sarah said. And all of a sudden I got this notification that like all of the things that I just, threw out to the universe was saying, hi, this is an open door. Walk on in. Let's see what happens. Um, so I was pacing the hallways in the hotel, and I remember voxing my coach Sabrina and telling her, so this thing happened and I didn't really tell you about this when we were like, when I was hiring her, when we were doing like our discovery call. Like I just didn't think that what Sarah reads would be a thing. I didn't have a lot of faith in it. I wasn't confident. And so I remember voxing her and saying, so all of these things that we're planning for what Sarah said, I don't want to screw that up. But there's this cool thing that happened, and it's called What Sarah Reads. And I basically shared with her the whole idea behind it, but also this idea of, exploring it through the Co-Starters program. And I was so nervous to tell her. And her response couldn't have been more kind or more clear. She said, you have to walk through this door. This door opened for you. You have to walk through it. You have to explore it. The worst that can happen is that you explore this idea for what Sarah reads and nothing comes of it, right? That's the worst that happens. It's not necessarily the right time, the right business model. It just doesn't fit. It doesn't feel right when you're done with those 12 weeks inside this Co-Starters program. The best thing that happens is you invest this time once a week for 12 weeks. You go through this program and you discover that your idea not only has legs, but you get the support that you need to get it off the ground. You have to walk through this door. And so I said yes. I said yes to the program. I went through the program. Again, it was 12 weeks. It was one night a week where I would meet with other entrepreneurs, and then a few people that were kind of incubators themselves from Startup Sioux Falls. So entrepreneurial minded folks who kind of coached us through the program. We learned everything from how to create a budget to how to legally like start a business in terms of like you need an LLC or a sole proprietorship. You need all of these pieces and parts, right? So like we talked about branding. We talked about, your unique selling proposition. We talked about all of the pieces and parts that, you have to understand in order to launch a business. And we were all launching different types of businesses, right? Some people had already launched their business and were looking to strengthen it. Some people had an idea like me. And so we were all at different parts of the, business exploration, the launch, the entrepreneurship journey. But what was so awesome is that we really got to know each other and know each other's businesses really well by the end. And we really learned a lot from each other as well. So the experience was wonderful. And my initial idea for What Sara Reads was not a mobile trailer, not a mobile book trailer, which is what it is now. My initial idea was to create a subscription box of books, and not just books, but like curated items to go along with the book title. So if I was choosing a fantasy book, for instance, that month, I would collect some like stickers, for instance, like for a Kindle or a computer or a water bottle, and that would, correlate or coordinate with the book's title or the characters or something. Maybe I would find a candle that, echoes back to a scene in the story or something like that. So my initial idea was to create that book box subscription, but that just didn't sit right with me for a while. By the time the program ended, again, it was 12 weeks long, I was still thinking, okay, book box, probably a great way to start. There's not a lot of overhead. That's probably a good place to start. But then I got sucked into launching all of the things: Story Sale, my group coaching program, my website copy course for photographers, Words That Click. And so all of the things that I was launching and working on for What Sara Said, that kind of took precedence. And so What Sara Reads went on the back burner for a little bit. But eventually it came back to me, and I had some time and some thoughts to put into it to see if this was going to be a real thing, to see if this was going to actually get off the ground. So I researched the heck out of book box subscription options, and there are some amazing book box subscriptions out there. And I just realized that was not a market I wanted to enter into. Sure, the overhead might have been low, but getting someone to commit to subscribing to a book box felt a little bit daunting when so many amazing companies and businesses were doing it so well and were really supporting the types of books that I wanted to curate and carry, those, romantasy, fantasy, romance types of books. So I let that idea go for now. And that idea kind of transformed. I started looking online for more mobile bookstore options because obviously the idea of a brick and mortar store with a ton of overhead from utilities to rent or lease, all of the things, in addition to like actually getting the books themselves, all of that terrified me, right? That's a huge commitment financially, but also here in Sioux Falls, if you want to be where the people are, where the shoppers are, the opportunity to get into a storefront like that takes a lot of cash. So eventually I started searching for mobile bookstore ideas, and I was so inspired by 20 Stories, which is a mobile book option that now has a brick and mortar in LA. I was also really inspired by Golden Owl Bookshop, which is based in Reno, Nevada, and the Cincy Book Bus in Cincinnati, Ohio. So all of these took a different spin on this idea of a mobile bookstore, but they were all housed in some sort of truck or trailer or bus. Okay. And so the search began for me for some sort of a bus or trailer or truck. This episode is brought to you by What Sara Reads, a mobile book buying experience for creative and inspired women in the greater Sioux Falls, South Dakota area. As a lifelong storyteller, a student, and a teacher of literature, an obsessive reader, and a copywriter by trade, I believe that words matter, and that reading for pleasure should be more than opening a plain brown box sent to your doorstep or swiping away a purchase confirmation on your Kindle. To me, discovering your next book to read should be an experience and an adventure. What Sara Reads is here to help you shamelessly add to your to-be-read pile. If you're not local to the Sioux Falls area, you can still support What Sara Reads. Every single book sale means a lot to solopreneurs like me, so please consider shopping for your next read on bookshop.org. If you select my shop at checkout, 30% of your purchase goes to supporting my small business. Thanks so much for your support. Now, back to the episode. Okay, so we've covered all of the backstory, but now it was time to find a truck, a trailer, or a bus. Now, I was really, really open to a lot of different iterations of what this could look like. Like I said, I was really inspired by the different businesses that I found across the internet, across the nation, and I was open to trying to find something that I could either put character into or that had character itself, right? I didn't want just like your run of the mill like van or truck. I knew I wanted it to feel like an experience. So I was just searching on the internet one day and I looked on Facebook Marketplace and there was a bookmobile for sale. It was like a legit retired bookmobile bus. If you don't have bookmobiles near you, I'm going to try and explain it. So a bookmobile used to be owned by the library in our town, and they would literally go around and like allow you to borrow library books. And so they would go to like, I don't know, they would show up at a park or a school in the summer when we didn't have access to the school library, and you would get to borrow books, and they would show up in your neighborhood, kind of like the ice cream trucks of yore, which was really, really cool. And as a kid, I loved the bookmobile. Like I would be that kid who would walk out with a stack of books and finish them in like 4 days and be like, Mom, when's the bookmobile coming back? I was totally that kid. So when I saw this like decommissioned bookmobile that was for sale, like the library had parted ways with it, someone purchased it as kind of like an investment and was then selling it for someone to restore. When I saw this listing on Facebook Marketplace for the bookmobile, I'm like, oh, that's it. It's a sign from the universe. It was $7,500 for sale. And I was like, that's not bad. But the listing made it very clear that it didn't run. Okay. So I am blessed to have a father-in-law who is like jack of all trades, very mechanically minded, has been in the car business for a really, really long time. And not the car sales business, but like fixing cars, detailing cars. So I gave him a call and I said, look, this is the dream. This is the thing I found on Facebook Marketplace. It doesn't run. Can you help me figure out what it would take to get it to run? So it was literally the middle of winter. Okay. There was snow on the ground. And I mean, here in South Dakota, it was cold. Okay. It was the middle of winter. And we called up the dealership that had the bus for sale. And he got his like coveralls on and crawled underneath the bookmobile, right? Like we looked at it, everything was so awesome inside. Like all of the shelves were still there. There was like, all of them were still installed and they looked great. It was just, it needed some love, right? Some cleaning. But the thing didn't run and it was missing at least one tire if I can remember. Anyways, long story short, I fell in love with it, was obsessed with it. And then my father-in-law said, Sarah, it's probably going to take like $30,000 to get this thing running and in working order. Wah, wah. I was like, oh no, the dream died. Like the dream just died. Honestly, I felt like the universe was giving me this sign that like, not only did we, open the door for you to participate in this co-starters program and give you all of the things that you needed to like get this business off the ground, but then we present you with this bookmobile and oh my gosh, isn't it perfect? And oh my gosh, wouldn't it be amazing to reclaim this like piece of history in Sioux Falls? But then it was a total bummer. Like it was a total bummer to consider all of the money that it would take to just get the thing running. And I explored like a bajillion options, right? Like I explored, what if I like purchase some land and just park it there? Or what are my options? Can I just tow it somewhere and like have a pop-up shop that's permanent? I explored all the options and it just wasn't financially feasible. So I let that dream go. And it was so hard. The emotions with that, like, oh, I was just so attached to this thing. I was so sad. But that wasn't the end of the journey, right? So fast forward to spring. I had been talking about What Sarah Reads for a year at this point, a year and a half, like talking with my family, talking with obviously Startup Sioux Falls, and my business owner friends, and they knew that this dream was something that I had. But in March of this year, my dad looked at me and he's like, "You know what? I have I have an idea." And I'm like, "Okay, what is it?" He told me about this trailer that he and my uncle went in on together. It was being sold by by the company my dad works for when their management or ownership changed. So it was like excess, like surplus stuff, and they just sold it. And my dad and my uncle went in on it together and purchased it. And my uncle and my cousin used it for a while to store dirt bikes because my cousin used to race dirt bikes like competitively, which is so cool. But he wasn't racing anymore because he was active duty military. So this trailer had been sitting at my uncle's house in his driveway for probably 2 years at this point. And he's like, "I can't believe I totally forgot about this." He had purchased it with my uncle back in like, I don't know, 2019 or something. So he had been sitting on this trailer for almost 4 or 5 years by now. And he just remembered it in March. Again, I had been talking to my parents, my friends, all of the people I knew in the community, as well as all of my business owner friends across the United States. I had been talking to them about this mobile bookstore idea for like a year. And my dad, one day in March this year, is like, "Oh, I wonder if that would work." So, anyways, fast forward a couple weeks, I went and saw the trailer. It was perfect. It was big enough, not too big, but it needed a lot of love, right? It had been sitting outside my uncle's house here in South Dakota where the weather can be literally 30 below zero or 95, and it needed some love, okay? But I saw the potential and they weren't using it. So they gave it to me for free. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, the universe is saying, yes, let's do this." So I saw it in March, took a bunch of pictures, took a bunch of measurements, and started to think, okay, how can I make this work? Can this be the first iteration of What Sarah Reads? So I got pictures of it and I started to collect estimates. I wanted to get it branded, right? So I wanted to get it wrapped in vinyl. It was just black. It was all black all over and I wanted it to stand out and, reflect my personality. So I've been working with a designer, Kelly with Be Creative Design Co. And she and I had worked together before on the branding for Story Sale and for Words That Click. And so I asked her to brand What Sarah Reads for me. And it was such a joy. But once like we finalized all of the branding, I started to collect some quotes, like what would it cost to brand this trailer? And I started to build kind of a running list. Like, okay, well, I'll need to, wrap the trailer in vinyl, get it branded. I'll need shelves, obviously. The floor needed to be replaced. There were a few other things that I needed to kind of figure out. And so I came up with a grand total of sorts. And I'm like, I'm going to go to the bank and see if they'll give me some money. So I went to a local bank and I got a bank loan and a line of credit to get What Sarah Reads off the ground. And I spent the month of May renovating the trailer. So again, we're in May of this year, literally 2 months ago as I'm recording this. And the trailer has been wrapped in vinyl. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And I'm starting to turn my focus to the inside. I get a floor placed in there and I start to, paint and bring it to life. And I drive to IKEA and I get the shelves and I do all the things. And then I start to amass my book inventory. So I get I sign up for a book distributor license of sorts. I build a relationship with a book distributor and all of the things start falling in place. And let me be real, that does not mean it was easy. It was really hard. May was really hard because my kids were ending their school year and I was wrapping up a run of Story Sale, my group coaching program for the copywriting side of the house, which, yes, it was all like I was still writing for clients while I was building out What Sara Reads. So like the division of labor, the division of energy here was a lot. It was a lot. Um, but I spent the month of May getting the the trailer ready to open. It was a lot of work, a lot of paint, a lot of manual labor. We had to install a ceiling in the trailer because I wasn't happy aesthetically with how it looked before. And so, I mean, I definitely felt like the pinch of like what aesthetics were important to me and how that translated to the experience, but also like what do I need to just get this off the ground? And so thankfully the bank said yes and I got financing, and that helped me to renovate the trailer and to get my first inventory of books. And I will never forget my husband sending me a picture of our front porch when my first shipment of books arrived. Again, this is a trailer. It's like a 7 by 12 trailer. So I can't carry like a ton of titles, but I think I ended up starting with almost 30 different titles. And when those books were sitting in boxes on my porch, I got goosebumps. Like, this is a real thing. This is really happening. My parents, my brother helped me so much with the actual renovation of the trailer. It would not be at all what it is without their help. And then I finally was like ready to think about opening. And I was like deflecting. I kept deflecting. People were like, "Oh, I see the trailer outside your house. That's so exciting. What is this?" And I would tell them, like, "This is What Sara Reads. This is a mobile book trailer. I'll be selling new books to women in Sioux Falls and, popping up at local businesses and parks and different, events around town." And everybody loved it. But like hearing from my neighbors and my parents and like my friends and family that they loved the idea and thought it was really, really smart is one thing. But like, does that mean people will actually like want to come and buy books and be part of the journey? Thankfully, the answer is yes. I opened up What Sara Reads. I debuted my mobile book trailer on June 12th, 2024. And I debuted it at the place where it all began, at Startup Sioux Falls. And that felt so surreal, but so amazing. It was a wonderful first pop-up event. It was downpouring, raining at one point. So I was so grateful that like I was in a trailer. There were so many iterations of What Sara Reads where I was like, maybe I'll do like a horse trailer. But no, that would have been open to the elements and probably would have problematized the condition of the books, which I was really nervous about. So like obviously there were so many different iterations. I was like, maybe I could just, attach shelves to my husband's truck somehow and just pop up that way. None of those ideas were sustainable, thankfully, but the trailer was. And it was a wonderful escape from the rain, right? But it was also just such a homey and cozy environment inside the trailer. And I had such a great turnout on the very first day when I popped up. It was in downtown Sioux Falls, which is a great place to kind of capitalize on that traffic. And it just felt so storybook to me to open up this journey, open up this new business where it all began at Startup Sioux Falls. Since then, I've popped up at a few different local businesses, and I have plans to open up my pop-up shops at a few more here in the next few months. For now, I view this business as a fun experiment, a creative exercise of sorts. It's definitely not making me a lot of money at this point. But again, that's not necessarily why I invested in the opportunity. That's not necessarily the reason I got into the book business. I know enough about selling books and about the book business. And let's be real, I've watched You've Got Mail about 74,000 times to know that the book business is hard, right? And so I didn't think that it would just be this cash cow. I did want this creative journey and this, I don't want to call it a side hustle because it makes it seem like it's just like a money-making opportunity. It felt like a journey of sorts for me, like an exercise in creativity, an opportunity for me to combine my love for words, my love for books and literature, and just my love for sharing things that are important, sharing things that matter, sharing things that can help us as women to escape the mundane parts of life, or help us as busy mamas or busy entrepreneurs or what have you, fill in the blank here, to just kind of find a little bit of escape for ourselves, a little bit of joy and adventure for ourselves inside the cover of a book, which has been my favorite thing to do since I was a kid. I mean, I was the kid who would like bring books with me to my brother's practices and games. Like that was me. That was totally me. And so I wanted to serve like the me in my heart that is a book lover to the core, but I didn't necessarily expect it to be such a wonderful experience where I'm getting what I'm giving too, right? Like I'm able to share my love for, XYZ fantasy book or romance or literature, whatever. But I'm also able to receive that love from other people. Like, oh, I love that you're carrying this. Have you thought about this author? Or did you read this yet? I loved it. And those conversations have been such a gift and such a blessing, and have helped me realize that like there's a community here of book lovers, not just in Sioux Falls, but like in general. Like book lovers love to talk books. And it's been so fun to be part of that conversation and to be part of sparking that conversation through What Sara Reads. So, anyways, right now, I'm just trying to have a little bit of fun with it. I'm holding it loosely, letting it feel fun and creative, and appreciating the opportunities that I have as they arrive. Again, I'm popping up at a few more locations here in Sioux Falls in July and in August and in September and in October. And at that point, I probably will put the book trailer in storage for the winter. Have a storage unit so that it's covered and, is inside because the winters around here are real harsh. And so I want it to be something that I pull out seasonally, probably between, March, April to like October, November every year, and pop up around town. I would love to pop up at holiday markets as well, but maybe not with the actual physical trailer, maybe just, a table or a booth somewhere. Because again, I want to really protect the integrity of the trailer. It's like been around since the 1990s. And so while it's like beautiful and wonderful, I just want to maintain the integrity of it as long as I can. And I also have kids who play competitive sports, and those sports happen to take place over the winter. So I want to be a present mama. And I also want to be able to continue writing for my clients who I love so much on the copywriting side of the house. So right now, this is just kind of a fun, creative exercise. And it's been such a joy to see it come to life. It's also been a lot of freaking hard work. I can't deny that. But anyways, thanks for listening to all of this ramble. I hope that you've enjoyed learning all about the journey to launch What Sara Reads. If you would love to follow along, even if you're not local, I would love to have you follow along. You can feel free to subscribe to my email list at shopwhatsarareads.com/subscribe. You can also follow along with me on Instagram at shopwhatsarareads. But again, thanks for listening, and thanks for being here for season 4 of this podcast. I can't believe we're in season 4. I can't believe that this is still a thing that I enjoy doing and that you still like to listen. So thanks again for being here, and I'll talk to you next time. Thanks for listening to the Copywriter On Call podcast. If this episode has you feeling all sorts of inspired to show up as yourself online, click that subscribe button so you don't miss my stories or practical advice to help you express your quirky, vulnerable, and authentic self online. Chat soon.